Welcome to this Ronel Talks Money show. Now, today we are going to talk a little bit more about how you can, if you have some kind of business concept or an idea or already a business going, how you can multiply that concept and obviously create more income for yourself, because we all know if we think about financial freedom, we want to create additional income sources. And we have Nicolene. She is the founder of the Xpresso. I don't know if you call it a cafe or a coffee shop. And she has had an amazing journey. So she will share all of that with you. But before we get in there, I just want to remind you to go and subscribe to the channel and to also go click on the link where we do our monthly giveaway competition, where you can also win one of my books, Financially Fit and Wealthy. Now, like I said, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Xpresso coffee shops. I have discovered it in, I think, 2019 when I was doing a big project for Old Mutual, and there was this nice coffee shop selling the most delicious different coffees and pastries. But the best of it, and I will show you, I still have my espresso mug, and but you will see here at the back, everything is 10 Rand all day, every day. And that was so amazing. Where do you get such good coffee and pastries for only 10 Rand? So we have the lady herself today with us on the show to tell us all about this amazing journey. Nicolene, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ronel, for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe we must first just, if you can do a little bit of an introduction, just tell the viewers about yourself. What was your journey like before you started Xpresso?
Okay, yes, of course. Well, my name is Nicolene Elhadad, and I'm a self-made millionaire. My husband and I started our very first business the day we got home from our honeymoon, and we started it from our garage, and we lived in Paul, which is just outside of Cape Town here in South Africa. And we started a distribution business, and we always knew that we did not want to stay in the garage. We knew we wanted to grow and scale. And I was supposed to only help him out in the beginning for a few months because of the language barrier. He didn't speak Afrikaans and I could help him out. But I love spending time with my husband. I love working together. We make a very good power couple. So for us to spend time together all day, every day was very easy. But we did. We grew this business beautifully within 4 years across South Africa as well, but not through franchising or anything. It's just branches that we wanted to create ourselves. But through that, our journey also grew more. So my husband and I think we're truly entrepreneurs at heart. We love creating new things and trying things, and we're not scared to take a risk because we are quite good with numbers. We plan things very carefully, and we won't just jump into something without preparing ourselves for it. But since then, and it's now been 14 years since we started that first business in the garage, we now have 7 different businesses. And I love sharing that with entrepreneurs because I believe that you don't always have to just have the one business that you have. You can start something else. You can also collaborate with other people. You don't always have to do it just by yourself. And also, you don't have to be the expert to start a business specifically, which I know today when I help my clients, they always think, no, I'm not qualified enough, or I'm not good enough, or I don't have enough money. And there's so many excuses that we give ourselves, but there are ways for you to grow and scale your business without always being the best in the room at what you do. But again, since then, we've always had a passion to start something new. And after we had our twins, I started working more from home. And that's when the idea of starting a little coffee shop is actually where it kind of was grown from.
Yeah, so I think that is interesting to listen to kind of how it started, but you've alluded now in terms of in a coffee shop. So why a coffee shop? Was it just an opportunity, or was it something that you had in mind? Just take us through that process.
Yeah, so my husband and I, we both love coffee, and we used to spend a lot of time in coffee shops. And we actually realized for a while already that there's a lot of people that cannot afford to go to coffee shops every single day. And for me, having a cup of coffee is an easy spoil. It should not be something that you treat yourself to once a month. I thought that was really sad. And I could see people that couldn't afford having that luxury every single day. And I said to my husband, there must be a way that we can create this opportunity for people to enjoy a cup of coffee every single day. And we knew nothing. I have to be very clear. We knew nothing about food, nothing about coffee. We are business people. But when we look at a concept and we think of, can we make this work? We don't let the excuse, which a lot of entrepreneurs do, the excuse that, oh, I'm not a food critic, or I'm not good in making coffee, to stop us from going into that. So it did take us about 2 years for me to do all the research. I spent a lot of time inside coffee shops. I looked at what other people were doing. I would take my notebook and write down things like, I don't want this in my coffee shop, or I do want this type of feeling. And it really, Ronel, I just loved that 2 years. It was really, really nice. And I'm sharing this because I think sometimes business owners think that they have to wait until they kind of quit a job to start something new, but we didn't do that. I was still working full-time in our business. I did this extra. I did this on weekends, late at night. I would get up early to do research. That's the hustle part. When you want to really expand and try something new, you need to make time for it in your life. And we obviously still had children as well. So we needed to make a nice balance for that to happen. But I spent a lot of time on research, and we finally figured out that things are not that expensive. Now, don't get me wrong, when you're sitting in a beautiful coffee shop that has a beautiful scenery and you're paying actually for the experience, not as much for the beans that's making the coffee. And I knew that I wanted a takeaway environment. We didn't want people to sit down and stay forever, inside a coffee shop space. We just wanted a quick in and out experience. And I realized that we can really bring the price down low and focus more on having thousands of clients every day instead of only having a few. So that is how the whole concept was just started. But there was a few times when we thought, oh, maybe it wouldn't work. What if it doesn't work? But luckily, because I have my husband, the two of us are able to be each other's soundboards. Now, Ronel, I'm sure you can agree that when you're growing a business and you don't have support, it's very hard to kind of play that mental game, because your head is going to tell you this is not going to work. What if it doesn't work? What if this goes wrong? And if you don't have someone to kind of play with you and think of new ideas and think of how to overcome those obstacles, it does become hard to go forward. But luckily I had my husband, and we work very well together like that.
Okay, no, that's awesome. And I think I like what I hear in terms of and how much research and effort you have put into this, because obviously with something like a coffee shop, there's zillions of other coffee shops out there. So you need to have that, even if it's just a small, but just something that differentiates you from all the other coffee shops, and just make or will give people a reason to come to you and not go to the coffee shop next door. So I really like that concept. And I think that whole thing where you say that we wanted to give a more affordable, or bring a more affordable product to the market, I think that was already a winner, because I think like you said, people spend so much time on in having these exquisite coffee shops, and people sit there, and so it was definitely already kind of, I think, a winner there to just go a different kind of direction. But then once you've had now that your research done, you are obviously entrepreneurs, so you maybe already had quite a good idea of how to start, but maybe you should just share in terms of how did you actually then start?
So after we looked at how much things cost, so I spent a lot of times in the coffee shops, and I would write down all the equipment that I see they had. I did a lot of research, like you were mentioning before, but really on what it takes to make a coffee shop successful. And I would look at how many staff you would possibly need and how much you need to advertise and all of those things. And I went and actually found suppliers that can give us the actual equipment. And I literally worked out the costing so that we knew more or less how much the actual coffee shop would cost us. Now, Ronel, a lot of people don't do that when they grow a new business, or when they plan for a new business. They think they know the numbers, and the number is either way too low or way too high. So it scares them either way. But I believe in having actual numbers. So go and find the suppliers and let them give you quotes for it. And even when we did that, I knew I could probably get the prices a bit better if we started negotiating, but I worked on those numbers. And then I said to myself, what would it look like? So I spent time on things like Pinterest and designing and Googling images of coffee shops and saw the things that I would like and that I would resonate with inside my coffee shop. And I made like a little mood board for myself. We didn't spend money on architects or anything like that in the beginning. It was just to put it into life, because I believe that you need to be able to see the thing that you want. If you cannot see, like Ronel's the same, like if you want to lose weight, if you cannot see yourself looking healthy and, being the weight that you want, it's hard to work out every day to get to that. Like it's the same in business. If you want to double your income, you need to know what that looks like. You need to know what the actual amount is. So I'm very passionate about that. So I did create this like vision board for myself of what the coffee shop would look like. And then I focused on where do we want to have the store. So we were very specific because we lived in a specific area and I wanted the first store to be close to us because we knew we would have to work probably like 24/7. And then when this happened, like Murphy's Law, I remember we had everything ready. We had planned out like how many staff we would hire. I had one assistant that was going to help me in the business. We didn't have anybody else. We even posted an ad to see if any staff members would like to apply. We got a few responses, but we couldn't hire anybody because we didn't know when we were going to open. And then we were waiting. Now, waiting was the waiting game for finding the premises and then the right location. And literally, I remember it was about 4 to 5 months that we didn't hear anything from all the property agents. We couldn't find any spot available. And literally within 3 days, we got 4 locations. And they called us and say, we've got all 4. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like, well, how do we pick now? Like, I'm too scared to say no. And then we sat down and we actually realized that the spots that they gave us were so opposite from each other that it might have been a good thing for us to open more than one to actually see if it would really work. So to make a long story short, that's what we did. We opened 3 locations in 2 months, and one was in a shopping center. That is still one of our most popular stores today. We also have one in a normal neighborhood area so that we can see if a small town setting will work. And then we have one in the center of Cape Town in the city center. Also in a very hidden alley because we wanted to see if it would still work if nobody could see us from the street. Mm-hmm. So there was a reason for all of our crazy little decisions, but we did open 3 stores in 2 months, which is crazy busy, but it's also Ronel, like I remember I lived off adrenaline, like it was so exciting. And I remember seeing every morning like hundreds of people outside the coffee shop waiting for the doors to open. So that was really beautiful and it kept my energy going really well, but I would not recommend this for everybody. I would suggest do one at a time and then maybe 3 to 4 months later you can open another one. But it was beautiful, and each store also had their own little culture, own clients that it was attracting because it was so different. But there was a lot of obstacles that we had to overcome in the beginning. Like we knew nothing about baking. We knew nothing about coffee. Yes, we went for coffee training. All my baristas were properly trained. I'm a barista trained person. We all did the things right. But I think if someone was in the baking industry for 20 years, they would be a lot more comfortable in our kitchen than I was in the first month. And I still laugh at all the silly things we did, but I didn't see it as a problem. I saw it as a way for me to know how my business works so that one day when I do get a manager to help me run it, I know every part about my business and they wouldn't be able to lie to me. They wouldn't be able to tell me, like this is actually what you're doing. Like I wanted to really know the core of my business. And that was great. So we had a lot of fun. But I know that it's not for everybody to be able to think mentally that they can do 3 locations at the same time and manage it all. But believe it or not, Ronel, the more stores you actually have, in my experience, the easier it gets. Because mentally, you don't look at a problem as a big thing. You see it as just another thing to take care of through the day. Now, when you have one store and you have a customer that walks in and they're very upset about something, that could spoil your entire day. But when I had 3 stores and I had, customers upset in all 3 stores, I learned to just deal with it and just move on and to always remember who my ideal client was that I was really trying to attract to my business and what was the real mission for my business. And our mission with Xpresso is to impact thousands of lives, to create jobs with all the stores that we've opened, and to really just put smiles on people's faces, because now get to invite families to come to the coffee shop. They can afford to buy something for everybody for under 100 Rand. This is very hard for a lot of people to do in any restaurant or in any coffee shop. Now, just like my coffee shop has a very unique experience, I also believe that you can open a coffee shop that is extremely expensive and it can also be successful because there will be a clientele that only wants that experience. And so when you were mentioning earlier, like our kind of niche was very unique, it is because it targets a specific group of audience. But it's the same as if you open a coffee shop that's only vegan, or if you do coffee where the brewing and the way they kind of roast their coffee is cold brewing. So there's so many things that I've learned through the years about how you can be in the same industry, but you can do it so differently, which is beautiful. And this works for any business out there. Like even you guys that are in accounting or in financing, like there's different ways you can service clients. It's just the way you bring your personality to life.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I like what you said in terms of being hands-on, especially during the beginning phase. You don't have to do all of those things forever, but the better you know and understand all those small things, the better you can also manage and run your business from the top level, if I can call it that. But I think like obviously with this kind of decision of having all these multiple locations, and I don't know, maybe it was different for you because you came from a different kind of background. But I think one of the biggest things that will immediately, when people hear this, they would think about funding. How am I going to fund all of this? So what did you do? Because obviously you need working capital, you need equipment, you need all of that, you need to pay rent. How did you fund it? Did you do it yourself? Did you get funding in? So maybe just share that with us.
Yeah, sure. So we did fund everything ourselves. Again, my husband and I have a very unique way in which we work with our own money, even personally in our home, the way we see money and the way we also see what to do with our profits from our businesses. So just to let you know, for example, Xpresso is now 5 years old this month, and we have not once taken a salary from Xpresso itself. The business is massively successful. We make 7 figures every single month, but we don't pull a salary because we've taken from one of our other businesses, but it's also a choice that we made. I could take a very beautiful salary and have an even more luxurious life than I already have, but I choose to invest the money back into my business so that I can open more stores or so that I can build a security net for my business so that if something like lockdown and all these things happen again, I have something to fall back on. And I really think, and I mean this with a lot of respect, but I think a lot of business owners don't plan properly with their finances, and that's what prevents them from growing, not just making their business successful, but from growing and opening that 2 or 3 more stores that they dream about. But we used our own savings, but Ronel, again, we were very specific with the numbers. We did research. We would call the malls and ask out how much would the rent possibly be. We also negotiated very good rent for our store. So we knew we could not spend more than a certain amount of rent. And if the place was too expensive, we just said no. We didn't go into something knowing that we cannot really afford this. We also knew exactly how much the equipment would cost. And when people were quoting us in the beginning to do the buildup of our coffee shops, we got like 10 different quotes. We didn't just take 2 people and chose the best one. We looked at everything. And service is really important for us. So we looked at a lot of things and chose the best person that could give us the best price and also do it in the right time. And all of those things played a role. And that's how we came up with the amount. And remember now, it took me 2 years to build this concept, and we saved up a lot of money for this. Like we knew that we would need money, and that's what we saved it up for. So we literally used all our money to start the first 3 stores. And then we also made the business model so that we can live out of the till, which means that we were profitable from the first day. And that is all based on the quantities and how not to waste and how to be on top of your business every single day, which again, we slip in those places when you start a business in the beginning. You might get so excited about being the owner and doing all these things in the sales and the customers, and then come the end of the month and you're like, oh my goodness, why can I not afford all the expenses? And it's because of planning. It really is. And it's just small things. And that's where there's beautiful people like Ronel to help with financial advice, because it's overwhelming for people, and if you're not a numbers person, I would advise you don't try to be. Like, just get someone to help you do it right, plan it out right. And even if you know now that something will cost you $1 million to do, then plan out and say, okay, how am I going to get that million? And make a plan and work the plan until you get there. Don't jump in over your head. Don't put yourself into debt for things. I do believe there's times to borrow money. There's times to invest or get partners or, like investors. But you need to do it smartly. And if you're not comfortable with yourself making that decision, then I would suggest just hiring someone to give you that right advice.
No, I think that is such valuable advice, and definitely I especially like what you say about the planning, the financial management, and the numbers. The numbers at the end of the day is what matters. You can have the most beautiful shop or business or office or guest house or whatever. If the numbers is not there to support the business, you are going to end up in trouble. But you now obviously come from a business background, so you will also agree with me that every business is different. You have kind of all this knowledge, but then you start something new, and again you encounter new challenges that you haven't had previously. So what would you say, what were your biggest challenges during this specific journey, and how did you overcome those?
Well, to be honest, it was hard to learn how to make coffee. Like, it might look really easy, but it's quite hard. No, to be serious, I think some of the biggest challenges we had in the beginning was actually building those relationships with the suppliers in the beginning, because we couldn't share our real deep concept with everybody in the beginning. And I needed to find suppliers that will grow with us over the couple of years and see the long-term investment with me, because I really needed them to come in with the best price as well. And to be honest with you, Ronel, some of the services we received from some suppliers were quite shocking. Like sometimes we would wait weeks for quotes just to get the initial relationship started. I almost felt in the beginning like people didn't want business, like they didn't want my money, and I was begging people to supply me with stuff. So I think that was just a struggle in the beginning, but I learned through the past 5 years now to become very assertive, to know exactly what it is that I want. When I walk into a meeting now with a new supplier or with someone on the phone, in the first 20 seconds, I make it very clear what it is that I want. And if you cannot supply me or you cannot meet my demands, then that's perfectly fine. And then we rather not waste each other's time, but my time is so valuable right now that I cannot go into a meeting for half an hour if you couldn't meet my price, whatever the situation is. And I had to learn that, because entrepreneurs are quite, we don't want to offend people, we don't want to be rude, but your time is so precious. And if you're the boss running a business, you need to become more assertive. You need to know what you want to spend your time on and what it is that you want. So that was a challenge for me in the beginning. And then obviously I think dealing with customer complaints in the beginning, but it's not the complaint, Ronel, about the product. I'm very open to any complaint. Even if we get one today, I listen carefully to it. I always listen to the true message in the complaint. But my biggest problem is actually the way people are towards each other. Like my children are small and they refer to people as humans. So they always say like, that human was so mean to us. And then I would say like, that I don't understand. Like, if you're not happy with something, just say it in a nice way. You don't have to be mean. So, and especially, like sometimes the lady that's, the cashier would be the one that's taking all the heat for, let's say the bad cup of coffee or something was cold or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, but you should know that she did not make that. Like, why are you screaming at her? It's very interesting to me, like how the human race sometimes reflects their feelings towards each other, when in fact, if you are just nice, I believe you can probably kill me with kindness. Like, you can just really, even a nice way, you can get away with anything. And I just think that's something that if you go into business and you know that you're going to work with the public, you need to learn to have a strong backbone and also learn to listen to the message behind the message. Because when someone complains, yes, they have something valid, that the food might be cold, it might not be good, or whatever the excuse is, but they might come across 10 times worse than what the problem is. And just to respect that and to kind of pass through that. But I think those would probably be my biggest challenges that we had in the beginning.
Yeah, I think it is sometimes to realize that it's probably not really you that they are angry at. It's sometimes an internal type one. You sometimes just have those people that they will complain about everything. So you kind of need to learn kind of what you need to take from whom, and what do you need to, focus on, and what do you just need to say, we will fix this and forget about it. But I think if you also think about your whole concept. Now, already when you have a concept where you have like a lower cost type of item, like a coffee or a pastry or something, but you still need to make sure that you are profitable, because there's rent, there's staff, there's all of these things that you need to pay. And now you have come with this concept of only charging 10 Rand. So you already kind of reduce your profit margin significantly. So what kind of advice would you give in terms of how do you still ensure that you are profitable?
So that was part of our planning, and we had to be very careful in the beginning when we chose the price originally at 12 Rand. So just to let you know, Ronel, after 5 years, this was the first month we actually put our prices up to 12 Rand, and we are now 12 Rand. However, even when the VAT increased from 14 to 15, we stayed the same. So for 5 years, we were very happy to be at the 10 Rand base. But even when we did that, we planned out very carefully how much profit we would make. Now, even today, we have some items that are not very profitable. And that's okay for us because they're like the magnetic items. It's the items that people come from, and then they'll buy other things as well. And any business generally has that. They usually have one or two things that's not so profitable, but that's what attracts the people. So we knew that going in, and we also worked out, again, the numbers, but how many items we needed to sell every day and every month in order to cover all of our expenses and break even. That was like our first point of entry. Like if we could only sell, I think it was something like, I don't want to lie to you, but I think it was something like, let's say 15,000 items or something like that, then at least we will be able to cover, let's say, all the rent and all the staff and all the expenses. And then we had like a second layer, which will be, this is what the profit is that we would like to make. So what would that number be? And I think if you can do that in your business and have these little steps that you can aim for, that is really good. But for us, it's based on the quantity. Like we need to have a certain amount of foot traffic comes through the stores every single day. Now, just to let you know, when we opened Ronel, we literally had thousands and thousands of people every single day. It is beautiful. We still have that. Our stores generally average between anything from 650 to 1,300 people a day that comes into the stores, depending on the locations, and some of the stores are quite tiny. But the neighboring stores actually benefit a lot having us as a neighbor. So I remember when we just opened, we used to receive letters, flowers. I got so many gifts from neighbors that are like our neighboring stores, thanking us for opening because their sales actually increased. Because now there's so many people standing in line waiting for their coffee that they would actually notice the shops around us and they would go in and buy stuff. So we have a very positive energy that we bring to any space, which is really good. And I want to encourage people to see their business like that. If you can bring more people, you will also help your neighboring entrepreneur on the side as well, which is always good.
Yeah, that is actually a beautiful story, because I mean now you are almost becoming the sales magnet for them. So I can imagine, you know, that gives you that little bit of energy kind of just to get going. But then you obviously now you already had your couple of stores, and then you decided, okay, now we want to go bigger and we're going to franchise. So why did you decide to do this?
I wanted my brand to impact thousands of people. I wanted to have the stores available across the country, but I was very clear that I knew I did not want to work more. So at the stage when we first opened our first franchise location, we had 5 of our own stores, and it was me and 2 assistants at that stage, and we were working really hard. It was not a lifestyle that I wanted to continue going forward. I wanted to actually start working less. And I knew that in order for me to have stores everywhere, I would have to find a model that would work specifically for me. So we designed our own kind of expandable multiplier way to do that. And we franchised our first store very close to us as well. It took us a long time to find the right person. We were very clear on who this person was. And it is a bit scary when you start, expanding your business through other people. But we opened our first location, and that was in Bangate in Cape Town. And she's still there today, doing beautifully, very well. She's a very good entrepreneur, and she loves the coffee industry. And that was also something that now I help my clients do that when we franchise, but you have to know who your people are. It's not easy. You can't just sell to anybody, and you need to know how to do that correctly as well, and how to be comfortable with that. But that was how we knew we could be in Johannesburg and in Durban and in all the places where we are today, because I had to let go of my business in some way, which is not easy for a lot of people, but I knew I would have to do that if I wanted to reach my dream. Now, franchising is also not for everybody, Ronel. It's a model that you need to be able to share your story with other people. You need to let them into the back room where they see your profits, where they see how you do things. And you do this obviously after they've agreed to join and they've paid. You don't share a lot before, but the idea is that you need to be able to also guide them and help them and be open to listening to their suggestions and their stories. So yes, the business still stays yours. It's your model and you get the final say on everything. But a lot of people find that step quite hard. And for me, it was easy because I was just focused on my goal. I knew I wanted to expand, and I was happy to share my beautiful concept that I knew was working with other men and women who have always wanted to own their own coffee shop. So that's how I see how franchising is. It's expanding your business across the country, but you share that dream of yours with other people who want what you have. And you become like their little leader. They kind of look up to you. They ask you for advice. They want to be you. They want to have 2 or 3 stores. And a lot of our franchisees now actually own more than one of the stores. Some of them have 2 or even 3, because they can see how being part of the family it gives them security. It gives them the safety net of how to be a part of something where they don't have to do all the work. The concept's already been grown and they can just be a part of it, which is really beautiful.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so Nicolene is also doing a lot of coaching where she helps people to, if you have a vision or a concept and you want to start multiplying that, or you want to start opening different locations, she can help you to get there. But Nicolene, like you said, it's not something that will work for everybody for different reasons. But for people now listening to this and say, oh, I want to do this as well, how would you typically know that whether it will work for your type of business or your business model? Is there some kind of pointers that you can say, for this type of business it will work, for this probably not? Or how do you kind of guide people on that?
Ronel, for me, and I know a lot of people will not agree with me, but for me, I believe any business can be expanded in some way or form. Franchising, the physical term, might not be specific for your business, but I believe that you can be in multiple stores. You can have multiple locations. Whether you own them or run them yourself, that's a completely different discussion. But there are ways that any business can be expandable, even if you do a service like accounting. You could package up something that you can license out or sell out to other people that they can combine with their business. So I think sometimes people think franchising is only for big corporate companies. It's only like the McDonald's and the big places, and you have to have millions in order to do that. But franchising, if you're looking at your business, if your business is profitable and you have a system that you follow, you have a way of attracting clients, you solve a problem for them, whether it's giving them food because they're hungry, or give them a massage because they're feel like pampering, or selling them a book because you own a bookstore, and you have a way of making profits, the business is sustainable for you, that you've got a specific kind of vibe and an audience that you attract. This type of model can be boxed up and sold to someone who wants what you have. The idea is not to think that every business model will have 500 stores. Some will and some will not, but some can be combined with something. There are some businesses that I know that will go into other businesses and have their branch inside of a different business. It's almost like putting my coffee shop, let's say, inside a clothing store or something like that. You can sometimes combine relationships. So I think if you don't know much about how you want to expand your business, you definitely need to reach out to someone like me, or just at least research it, because you need to know. I believe knowledge is power. And if you don't know something, it will scare you and it will prevent you from growing. But if your business is profitable and you've got a beautiful model that you're following, I know that I can help you then box it up and then expand it so that you get to choose who you sell it to, where you want to go. You're still the boss of your business. I think sometimes, Ronel, people think franchising is like, oh, I'm going to lose all control of my business. Someone's going to come in and steal my ideas. And, I've heard all the stories, which is true. And it can also happen. But it's the way you run it. And it's the way you share your business with people and who you end up signing that contract with that you have full control over. And it's also the micro managing afterwards and how you support them and how you help them become successful. Because if you help someone else make money in your brand, there is no reason for them to want to damage it. There would be no reason for them to leave you. If the relationship is really taken care of well, which is what I believe in, they will stick around because they can see that there's a good future with you and with the brand. And that's why they are with you in the first place.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I think like a lot of people would consider franchising because like you said, it is something that's already kind of a concept that works. It's been tested and all of that. But there's obviously also some kind of challenges or obstacles that you should be aware of and that you should know, okay, I can deal with this. I know about this, because the better you are prepared going into something, you know, the better decisions you can make and the easier it will be to be successful. So what can you tell us in terms of what are those challenges or what are those things that people should know about franchising before they start exploring this route?
For me personally, you need to be very clear on your mission and your vision for your business. And that's why I was saying before, like you need to see where you want to be. So in 5 years, if you want to have 5 stores or 10 stores, you need to actually spend time and envisioning that and seeing what that would look like for you. And how do you want the public to see your brand, because that will allow you to say that this is the rules that I want to set up for my business. This is what I want these business partners to do or not to do, so that you almost create the rules before you even started franchising, because you need to be very clear on how am I going to train them? How am I going to assist them? And some of the challenges that we've had is that we've had to learn to be very strict with the rules in the beginning. Like, we instantly, when we made it clear that franchising was an option, Ronel, I think we got over 3,000 emails in like a week. And we were overwhelmed, like it was amazing. But I also, the questions people asked was like, how much profit do you make? And where do you buy your stuff? And I was like, no, I'm not going to tell you. So we had to be very strict with the rules. And we had to eventually like reply to everybody and say, this is the application form. Once you've been approved on the application form, then you sign an NDA. Then we, set up a meeting with you. And even in the meeting, we only share certain things with you, because for us, the meeting is a space to see, do we like you? Do you like us? Are we going to have a relationship together? Because that's what it is. It's not just money. And we make it very clear that if you join us just to make money, then rather go spend your money somewhere else. We want more than that. We want people that are committed, people that want to help the environment and the communities by hiring more people and, prevent waste. And, like there's a lot of things that our company stands for, and that we want that in people. And we've said many times no to people that have even wanted to buy 10 stores at the same time, but they were only there for the money. And that means that they're going to get people just to run it for them and they're going to walk away. And that's not the culture that we wanted in our coffee shop. So there's a lot of things I think before you do it, you need to decide what are your dreams and vision for your business. How are you going to step up and fill this CEO role? Because now you really become the leader for other entrepreneurs. And you have to remember that other people bring ideas also to the table. So you have to be open to their suggestions. And you have to also know that sometimes you will be the one that's wrong. And that's okay. Like, I am all for it. Like, even my staff, when I say something like, no, you're wrong, I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. And I just keep going on. Like, I don't get offended. It's for me, I know I don't know everything. And I love that, because I hire people that's smarter than me. I hire people that are better at stuff than me, so that my business can grow. But if you're that type of entrepreneur that thinks you know everything and that you're always right, maybe sharing your business is not a good idea.
Nicolene, I think listening to you, you can hear that you've been in business for many years. You've already kind of seen it all, you've done it all, because you can hear there's quite a big maturity in terms of things that you had to overcome, obviously, to where you are today. And I'm definitely going to share your contact details for people if they want to get in touch with you and get some coaching or some advice. I think Nicolene is the perfect person to help you to really kind of get your vision or your idea into something much bigger. But then I also want to ask you, if you think about the restaurant business specifically, been heavily impacted by lockdown. How did you experience that? Was it also a big impact on you guys? Was it like a short impact, but then you recovered quickly? So maybe just tell us about how did it impact you, and how did you deal with that impact?
Yeah, lockdown was very hard. We definitely lost a lot of money, but we also planned our finances in general. We planned very well. So we were very blessed that none of our stores had to close during lockdown, or they were able to not open back up. That's what I meant. So we were very blessed for that. We were also able to pay all of our staff throughout lockdown, which is huge because most restaurants couldn't do that. And again, that's because we planned, we use our finances very smartly. But also, we were able to realize, even in the coffee shop industry, that we only depended on the customers walking through the door. And now we've realized that, we also need to make sure that we have multiple income streams for that specific business. And this is something that I teach specifically, because you cannot expect one business to make you all your millions. You need to be able to have different revenues of business coming in. And now we're currently expanding Xpresso in a brand new way that will secure that type of income stream, so that even when we are in a lockdown situation again, that finances will never be an issue in that space as well. But we were able to recover our expenses in about 6 to 8 months, and we slowly added that back in, also because we continued paying our staff. So we had that extra expense even though we had no money coming in. But that was my promise to my staff, because I knew that everybody that works for me, they are the main breadwinner in the house. So I needed to make sure. And at that stage, I think, if I remember correctly, we had about over 65 employees working for us, just in my stores alone, not even the franchisees. And we made sure that also through the franchises, we supported them, made sure that they can also pay their staff, so that they can plan correctly. And again, for the future, now everybody's even looking at their numbers more to always have like a safety net for situations like this.
Okay, now I think that's brilliant advice, and it's good that you have been able to recover quickly, and that you had those reserves that you could fall back on. But maybe you should, before we jump into the last question, just share with us kind of, you said now you've started off with your 3 locations, and then how did you grow? Where are you currently? I know I've seen something about opening your 29th store, but where are you now? Is it only in certain provinces? So maybe just give us a bit of background on that.
Yeah, so after the 3, we opened 2 more in Cape Town area, and then we started franchising, which again was more focused on Cape Town. But when we reached I think we had about 9 or 10 stores, we franchised first into Durban, and now currently we have, I don't even want to lie, but I think we have over 11 or 12 stores just in Durban alone. And now we also have about 4 or 5 on my numbers, because they keep coming up new, but we have about 4 or 5 in Johannesburg now. So those are the 3 main areas where we are, and we'll probably expand more in those 3 for the next year. And then because of our new business model that we're creating, we want to be able to go kind of nationally everywhere, even if there's only 1 store in a specific space, because building suppliers, building those relationships, and opening up small hubs, it's quite hard if there's only 1 store, in a whole province. So we wanted to make sure that we structure that, and again, plan that, properly. So we get a lot of interest from people who want to open up franchises. And now we've also looked at that specific section more. And I kept saying to my husband, how can we help people open up a franchise? Because again, there's an investment that they need to do. But I also believe that I look more for people that have the passion and it's their dream. Like one of our franchisees, this was always her dream. Like as a child, she's always wanted to own her own coffee shops. And I can see that when I go there, like she runs that show like it's an Oprah Winfrey thing. She's so beautiful and she's so amazing, and you can feel her energy there. And I always say to my husband, that's the type of people that I want, because they will go through hell and high waters to make the business a success. And sometimes you just don't have the finances for it. So we're at the moment working with a couple of companies and banks to kind of help give financial support and give loan options to people that want to go into the franchise world with us, but also in a very safe way. We will never want people to mortgage their house to buy a franchise. Like we do things very smartly, and we want them to have a small investment, but then get support wherever possible. So that's our model that we're working on for the next year, possibly, to just help the really perfect candidates to come in, but they might just be a little bit tight on the cash.
No, I think that's such an amazing journey, and you're very well done to yourself and your husband
Thank
for
you.
basically bring all of this to life and to expand and and to get through lockdown and just to go bigger and better all the time. So I want to ask you the last question, and I think like we can obviously spend another hour, just discussing things and sharing more lessons learned and all of that. But if I listen to you, I hear things like having a vision, but also having the ability to bring that vision to life and to actually, take action. I hear a lot of planning. I hear a lot of, treating your staff well, wanting to make a bigger impact. And then I obviously also hear a lot of, financial management is key. Be close to your numbers, understand your numbers, manage it well. And so my last question would be, what would your advice be to an aspiring entrepreneur who wants to start something, or people who are already having a small business, or maybe even having a bigger business but want to expand that? What advice will you give to other entrepreneurs?
Ronel, this is a big question. I wish I could just say one thing, but I want to say a few things. I would say the first thing is definitely having that vision and goal. But once you have that, I want you to encourage yourself to think even bigger. I think one of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs do after they've even started their business is that they don't allow themselves to think really big and to dream really big for their business, because they think almost like they're not entitled to, or they maybe don't have the funds to do it now or the experience to do it now. But I think having that future vision is where the magic happens, because it allows you to get through the tough times. It allows you to stick through, even when you lose a staff member or when a client complains, when you know that your vision is to have 5 stores one day, let's say, of your business. It allows you to stick through the little hiccups that we have in business. But if you don't have that, if your vision is only to have the one space where you are and you can't really see yourself growing, and you're very negative with that kind of mentality, it's very hard to grow. And I don't believe that will help you to become successful. So I have a few tips. I would make sure that you, first of all, surround yourself with positive thinking people. Cut out people that are very negative, because you cannot grow in a space like that, even if they're family. What I mean is just don't share your dreams with them, rather spend it with someone else. But also go and find people that have already done what you want. So if, for example, you want someone, let's say you're in the beauty industry and you want to own another store, go and find someone that has 2 stores. Ask them to go on out on coffee date and see how they can, just tell them, ask them what is like their biggest lessons that they've learned by having these 2 stores. Get inspired by people that are just ahead of you, not people that are 200 years ahead of you, but people that can actually show you it's doable. Because that mental shift that happens when you see, oh, but Ronel did it, so now I can do it. And that is magic. But you need to be able to make it more realistic for yourself. And it starts with thinking positive, thinking bigger and bolder, because we think way too small for ourselves. And we are all entitled to make more money in our businesses. I see money as just a source of energy between 2 people. Like Ronel, if I had to pay you for a service, I'm paying you to solve a problem for me. The money is just the exchange between the 2 of us. And I think if we can disconnect ourselves from how much things cost and how much you will make in something, and you rather see the magic that will happen between this and how you can grow and how many people your products and services can impact, that's truly where I think the mental shift happens. And that's what separates entrepreneurs from each other. You'll get always people that will just stay where they are, which is also fine. Like, you don't have to expand to multiple stores. But if your heart is yearning for more, and you know that your brand is supposed to just help more people and just be on the shelves of every supermarket or whatever your dream is, then you should go after that. And just my last tip, Ronel, is like when we talked before about the numbers and knowing your numbers, plan things out. Don't assume it's going to be hard to do something. Go and figure out, how do we actually do this? Write it down, watch the YouTube videos, like spend time on knowing more about it so that you can become knowledgeable, and then see how can someone help you to do this. And I've learned through the past 14 years to hire the best when it comes to solving something for me, because my time is very valuable. I would rather spend it with my kids at home than having to struggle for 2 or 3 days to set up some other program on my laptop. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me now. But when you are alone and it's just you in the beginning, we do those things, and that's perfectly fine. But as you grow, you need to learn to let your business run without you, see how you can start stepping out so that you can become the visionary of your business. So I hope through that someone got some tip to go being inspired about their business. But just the last thing, Ronel, I think sometimes entrepreneurs forget, when you've already started your business, you've already done one of the scariest things ever. Millions of people in the world dream of owning their business and starting their own business, but they never do. So if you're listening to this and you're already a business owner, you've already done amazing things. Now, if you want to grow, it's just an uncomfortable step because you don't know how it looks like on the other side of the wall. But once you take the step, you'll see that it's easier. You'll see that it's more exciting. You'll become more, adrenalized by it, and you'll actually want to grow and scale your business even more.
Nicolene, it is so inspiring just to listen to you because you can just see that or hear that energy flowing, and you have so much, knowledge and wisdom and experience that you can share. So I want to thank you for spending some time with us, sharing all these experiences, because I think, like you said, sometimes people have a dream, but they think it is just impossible to get there. And when you actually hear from people like yourself who have basically taken that first step and just made that dream into something that's there and it's happening, you're growing, that is just amazing. So thank you. I am going to share Nicolene's details, so get in touch with her if you want some coaching, some advice on how you can also follow this method or this franchising concept or model that they are using. She can definitely help you with all of that. And look out for the Xpresso shop in your environment. Go visit them, go buy your coffee and your pastry and whatever from them. I promise you, you will love it. And then remember to subscribe to the channel, enter the giveaway competition. If you have any questions or comments, you are welcome to give that to us in the comments field. And then I will see you again at the next Ronel Talks Money show.